There are names you hear in every history book, but behind those names lie secrets, buried under blood, betrayal, and glory. 10 heroes who changed the world, and what they hid will shock you. Their secrets rewrote history itself. Watch closely. You won't see them the same way again. And if you're ready for the truth, you know what to do.
He stood tall, but carried the weight of a broken nation. Abraham Lincoln, the rail splitter turned president, wasn't born for greatness. He carved it, one scar at a time. He led the United States through its darkest hour, not with shouts, but with silence, with letters, with aching, heavy choices. He freed the enslaved, held a country together, and every night, as the cannons roared, he sat alone, writing, not just laws, but poetry. He was haunted by war, by death, by depression so deep he called it the dark cloud. And yet, he smiled, because he believed that even in our worst moments, we can become better. The night he was shot, he was dreaming of peace. Lincoln didn't just free bodies, he freed minds. And his secret? He was never trying to be a hero. He just refused to be a coward. He was small in height, but enormous in hunger. Napoleon Bonaparte, a Corsican outsider, rose through chaos and cannon fire, until Europe knelt before him. He rewrote laws, built empires, crowned himself. He didn't just conquer cities, he conquered minds. But greatness is fragile. Napoleon feared cats, obsessed over details, and in his final days was haunted by the silence of exile. He once said, "History is the version of past events that people have decided to agree upon." He tried to write his own version with blood and brilliance, but in the end, the emperor died alone on a poisoned island, dreaming of battles that would never come again. His secret? He wasn't driven by glory, he was running from irrelevance, and for a while, he outran it. He walked barefoot, but made empires tremble. Mahatma Gandhi, frail in frame, was steel in soul. He faced bullets with silence, chains with smiles. His weapon was truth. With nothing but a spinning wheel and resolve, he unraveled the British Empire. But peace has a price. Gandhi fasted, slept beside young women to test his virtue. Critics whispered, followers worried, and yet millions followed. He didn't want power. He wanted awakening. He was killed by one of his own. A country torn, a dream bleeding. Gandhi's secret? He believed the greatest revolution was one that changed hearts before borders. And maybe that's why he still walks with us. She was called a temptress, but ruled like a tactician. Cleopatra, last queen of Egypt, spoke 9 languages, outwitted emperors, played Rome like a chessboard. They said she seduced Caesar, then Mark Antony. But history rarely admits when a woman wins by wit. She wasn't a beauty, not by legend's standards, but her mind, sharp as a dagger. She chose death over disgrace, holding a serpent to her chest, calm, poised, defiant. They buried her name in scandal, but it rose, immortal. Her secret? She never wanted to be remembered as a lover. She wanted to be remembered as a ruler. And now, she is. He was born into power and swallowed by paranoia. Ivan IV, known to history as Ivan the Terrible, wasn't always terrible. As a child, he watched nobles poison each other for influence. His innocence died early. But when he became the first Tsar of all Russia, something inside him cracked. He envisioned greatness, unity, order, glory. He built cathedrals, centralized power, created the first Russian secret police. But beneath the crown was a man at war with his own mind. He trusted no one, not even his closest advisors, not even his own son. One night, in a fit of rage, Ivan struck that son, his heir. The blow was fatal. He collapsed, screaming, holding the boy's broken body. Russia held its breath. From that moment, Ivan ruled with fury and fear. He drowned cities in blood, tortured thousands, and yet, through chaos, he forged a nation. Was he a monster or a mirror of a world that fed on cruelty? You see, Ivan didn't just change history, he stained it. And his greatest secret? He may have hated himself more than anyone else ever could. She claimed to hear voices, not whispers from men, but echoes from heaven. A teenage girl, illiterate and barefoot, walked into the court of kings and demanded an army. Joan of Arc, the Maid of Orleans, turned the tide of a war that had dragged for 100 years. With fire in her eyes and steel in her words, she led soldiers, grown men, into battle, and they followed her. Not because she was powerful, but because she made them believe they could win. Yet power breeds fear. The same voices that crowned a king became evidence in a trial of heresy. They stripped her, mocked her, chained her. At 19, they burned her alive. But here's what they couldn't destroy: her legend. Joan didn't just fight an enemy. She fought the idea that only kings mattered. She rewrote what a hero could be, and the secret they buried with her ashes. She was never fighting for herself. She fought because something divine whispered she must. He was the voice in the radio when all hope seemed lost. Winston Churchill didn't just speak to a nation, he lit a fire beneath its feet. As bombs rained over London, he promised not surrender, but resistance. Cigars in hand, whiskey on breath, he wrote speeches that outlasted armies. But behind the thunder was a storm inside. Churchill suffered from what he called the black dog: depression, isolation, shadows that no bomb could match. He drank too much. He insulted too many. He failed, again and again. And yet, when history demanded a lion, he roared. He didn't win because he was perfect. He won because he never stopped getting back up. Churchill's secret? The world saw a leader, but he saw himself as a man one step away from collapse. And maybe that's why he stood so tall. They locked him away for 27 years, and when the door finally opened, he stepped into the sunlight without rage. Nelson Mandela was born in chains, not iron, but injustice. He became a symbol, a threat, a myth, and in prison they tried to break him, but he turned a concrete cell into a school, a temple, a revolution in silence. When apartheid fell, the world expected revenge. He offered peace, not because he forgot the pain, but because he remembered it too well. He became president, but more than that, he became a possibility. The truth? Mandela wasn't perfect. He compromised. He forgave men who didn't deserve it. His secret? He believed the only way to truly defeat a system was to stay human, even when it tried to make you a monster. She danced with fire in her eyes and died with a blindfold over them. Mata Hari, seductress, performer, legend. She captivated generals, crossed borders. But behind the jewels and silks was a woman trying to survive in a man's war. They called her a spy, a traitor. But did she ever hold secrets? Or was she simply too visible to be allowed to live? Her trial was a theater, her sentence already decided. She blew a kiss to her executioners, and as the rifles fired, history froze. Mata Hari's secret? She wasn't a master of deception. She was a mirror, reflecting the fears of a world that couldn't control her. And sometimes, mystery is more dangerous than truth. He looked like a poet, but carried a gun like a storm. Che Guevara, the doctor turned revolutionary, became the face of rebellion. From jungles to mountains, he whispered one word: justice, and millions answered. He wrote manifestos in candlelight. He shot traitors at dawn, to some a hero, to others a butcher. But no one ignored him. Che believed real revolution was sacrifice: blood, sweat, and flame. He gave all three. And when the CIA caught him in Bolivia, he faced them with eyes unblinking. "I know you've come to kill me," he said. "Shoot. I am only a man." His secret? He didn't fear death. He feared dying forgotten. And in that, he succeeded. History remembers the brave, but rarely speaks of what they sacrificed. Sometimes their silence was the loudest act of courage. If one story here changed how you see the world, maybe there are others waiting to be uncovered. And when the next story calls, will you be watching? Until then, keep your mind open.